Peace, family, and welcome to another episode of Sins of the Father. I am your host, Ani I Am, and today I wanted to just touch on some topics that I found very interesting and helpful. It was basically a young lady online by the name of, I think her name is Raquel, the Capacity Expert. Very insightful woman, and I heard her speaking about how people are beginning to weaponize mental health topics and mental health lingo, right? So you'll get somebody that'll say, oh, he's a narcissist, because they don't want to deal with the truth or the realities that may be actually happening between the two of them. They don't want to maybe deal with their own possible flaws or issues that they have. And I just found it to be very interesting, because I do see that a lot, that once a topic comes online and people start to say mental health, emotional intelligence, blah, 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 it seems that all of a sudden everybody has, a problem but you. You can point out everybody else's flaws. You can say, this person is narcissistic, this person is emotionally detached, this person has, detachment syndrome, whatever you want to call it. And all of that deflects from the fact that maybe you or I need to look within and see where we may be at fault, or where we may be deficient in our understanding or evaluation of, whatever it is that's bothering us. And I just found it really interesting. She kind of really went deep into it. And it just kind of really sparked in my head some of the conversations that I've had with brothers and sisters, where they will say that, my spouse or my partner or whatever did this, and they're narcissistic, and I can just tell. And I'm just, in my mind, it made me think, well, do you really know what narcissism is? Do you really understand it in its complexity? Not because there's a definition of it, but being able to really identify if another person is diagnosed with narcissism is a little bit deeper, right? And in that, it caused me to have to think about my own judgments of people, my own ideas of what I think a person is or isn't, right? And I'm not even trained, right? So I want to be honest. I am utilizing my faculties of intuition, my ability to observe, objectively and subjectively, trying to be as unbiased as possible, but I'm human. In reality, I'm human. So in that, how many times have I actually judged the person incorrectly? Or how many times have I deflected from my own issues because I wanted to seem that I was, not the problem? And I had to really think about that for myself and say, I can weaponize language in a way to remove myself as the protagonist, or to remove myself as the problem and put it on somebody else. But I don't know if that's fair to them or to myself, because if I'm really looking to heal, then I think it requires a level of sincerity and honest objectivity to kind of identify that, right? Like, I have to be honest with myself and say, Ani, you can't, you got, there's some flaws, there's some faults, there's some things in you that you need to work on. There are some issues that have not been properly and fully dealt with in your transformation, in your desired transformation. And we got to be honest with those things. Like, we can't, I could fool myself all day long, but then who is that helping? It's not helping me. It's not helping the person that I may be in conflict with. And it's definitely not going to help my children, which is really one of the main essences around what it is that, I'm hoping to do, which is to maybe help highlight the flaws that we have so that we can navigate away from that with our children, so that we create a more healthy environment for those coming up under our tutelage or under our parentage. We don't want to pass on bad seed. We don't want to pass on bad information. We don't want to pass on bad habits. You know, I think about me when as I work a lot, right? And I say, how many times when I work a lot do I notice that I'm neglecting my family, or I have neglected my family, right? So I'm working these long hours and I say to myself, I justify with, these are the necessary things that I have to do in order to provide for my family. But provision can't only be materialistic. Provision has to be encompassing of all of the needs of the family. So the family needs time. If the family needs reassurance, if the family needs loving affirmations, then if I'm depriving them of that because I'm worried about the materialistic provision, then where's the balance? You know, we always hear work-life balance, work-life balance. And it's real. I don't want to, in any way, I know I was saying weaponizing these terms, but no, in this sense, it's real. Like, there needs to be a work-life balance. Because I sat one day looking at myself, I'm working in the computer, and it was like just like a moment where I just said, wow, here it is. It's like I could almost see like my computer glowing like a campfire, right? It was just here. And I saw myself in the reflection of my computer, and I'm just sitting there staring blankly at the computer. You know, I was working, but I'm seeing it, and something came over me like, you've been in here for hours. Like, have you thought about maybe running upstairs and just laying in the bed with your son and your daughter and just playing with them for a little bit and just talking with them and asking them how their day went? You know, do you even wonder whether or not they're thinking about, why hasn't my father come in here and checked on me? Or why hasn't he said, more than just, hey, how you doing? How was school? As we walked in the door. Now, I'm not, by my own evaluation, I'm not a selfish person. I don't believe that I am. I believe I have selfish tendencies. I believe I've done things that have been selfish, but I don't believe necessarily that I am a selfish person. And that's just my, honest opinion, right? And I'm sure there are people, going to think differently and see it differently. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that, because I believe, in being able to receive people's criticism for the benefit of myself, right? And for the benefit of others. I want to be able to make sure that I can see those things and that I'm aware of it, and I'm not just fooling myself that I'm just the greatest thing on planet Earth and I've done everything that I can do. I want to be sure that I'm not fooling myself, for lack of a better term. So here it is, I'm sitting on my computer, it's late at night, and it's glowing like a campfire, and I look at myself and I'm just like, wow, stop for a second. And it made me almost go back to my mother and how I felt when my mother was working these long hours. I mean, she would leave at 7 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, whatever, 7:30 in the morning, and would not return to home until 8, 9 o'clock at night. Maybe a little overtime, maybe sometimes a second job, whatever it may be. And I found myself home alone with my little brother all the time, and having to rely on our own wit. We had to be very self-reliant in regards to sustaining each other, which as a child, I didn't have the ability to do that. So I'm almost certain that my brother suffered. And I don't laugh because I think it's funny. I laugh out of how could I be so heartless sometimes and so cold. But as a child, I didn't have any emotional regulation. I didn't have any guideposts. So I obviously may have done things that were harmful and hurtful to him. And I don't necessarily want to blame it on my mother, but I have to really be honest and say that had my mother maybe been there and spent the time, I would not have had the mind frame of thinking that these were appropriate things that I was doing. Maybe teasing my brother, calling him names, just being selfish and mean. Give me this TV. Let me watch the TV. You can't watch what you want to watch. Whatever that was. Just not being fair. And now here it is. In essence, or some way or another, I probably resented the fact that she wasn't there, right? I probably resented the fact that I was left to man the home as a less than a teenager. I was probably like 11 or 12 as a latchkey kid, right? And all the way up until I was, old enough to leave the house. So here it is, I'm doing this, but yet now here it is, this same thing I'm doing to them, to my children. Here it is, I'm sitting in the office, regardless of the fact that I'm here, but I'm not here. I'm not here, you know what I mean? Like my mind is in my work, right? And it made me kind of think of something that was kind of fascinating that I looked up one time, and it was about trees. So they say that, and I want to make sure I get this right, but they say that trees can pass down drought stress responses. So we have these huge oak trees, everybody, one of these trees behind me. When they don't have water, when a tree experiences extreme drought, when there's no water around, it modifies its DNA expression to help its offspring, whatever trees is going to birth. It modifies its own DNA to ensure that next tree comes up is prepared for a drought. So it changes its DNA to be able to survive under these same similar conditions. But here's what really made me think about it is that here it is, I'm doing the same exact thing to my children. My mother did it to me, right? And I'm, again, unintentionally, but she did it. I at times find myself in workaholic mode. I'm constantly on the computer. I'm constantly in meetings. I'm constantly till sometimes 9 o'clock at night. I'm still, typing away at the computer, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And as entrepreneurs, we justify that as these are the ends to a mean. I mean, these are means to an end, right? We justify this behavior. We justify it and say, hey, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, because we want to be able to provide for our family. We want to be able to provide and materially for our family. And we think that us giving out all in that and not recognizing the neglect of that side. So the same way how that tree modifies its DNA, my mother may have modified my DNA. So now what am I doing? I mean, think about it. If we inherit our parents' stress responses, this is epigenetics, right? So if we inherit our parents' stress responses, what do we think we're doing if we're doing the same thing? We're passing those stress responses on to the next generation. So we're continuing a cycle of pain that we readily acknowledge has happened to us, that we know in our hearts we don't want to pass on to our children, but without proper discipline and awareness and action, we are doing just that. We're passing it on to our children. And now here it is, this innocent soul, this innocent human being is already being modified, so to speak, to become what we dread, and almost to become what they have dreaded, unless there's some level of awareness that we bring to stop that. that we have to bring to stop that. And I wanted to just kind of, think about that, like really think about what it is that we are doing when we are proclaiming we're doing it all for our family. We're doing it all for our family, and it was an awareness as I was listening to the young lady today talk about how, we are misusing these therapeutic terms and phrases, or we are using them to deflect from our own responsibility to heal and be better. We are now weaponizing, to a certain degree, mental health. We're weaponizing to get people off of us. Oh, you're a narcissist. Oh, you did this. Oh, you have detachment issues. Oh, you have daddy issues. You can't really love me the way I need to be loved. Oh, you have mommy issues. You can't really nurture me the way I need to be nurtured. You didn't hear love enough. And not knowing that we are creating so much damage to a healing modality that is really there to help us unlock answers, not lock them inside of a box. And it's clear to me that we need to have some discussion around that to some degree, right? There needs to be some level of awareness brought to what is happening if we are truly desiring change, which I would say for me, I am going through this transformation with you in real time. I try not to really hide much. I don't really try to hide anything, but of course, certain things, I haven't gotten to the point where I want to express everything, but I do, in this talk, want to be as genuine with you guys as possible. And, as I always say, as you guys interact with me, I don't have a problem speaking my truth, I know it hasn't all been good, and at the same time, I know it hasn't all been bad. But I know how important it is to break this generational loop. How important it is to self-regulate myself so that when I'm aware or dealing with something, I can immediately regulate my feelings and say, hey, wait. What are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Where is this going? What is your desired result or goal from this interaction? From what you are now aware of, Ani, what are you ready to do to change that? Right? And I mean, it's important. For me, at least, I feel like, it's important. And I believe for a lot of us, I don't want to, remove you guys from this conversation, because I believe that more of us are suffering than not. And we got to be careful to not deflect our healing by putting those same terms that we should be using on ourselves, narcissistic, detachment syndrome, all these different topics, instead of us putting them on other people and to say, this is why I am the way that I am, when are we going to take the time to start looking at ourselves and say, maybe it's me that's has some narcissistic tendencies. Maybe it's me. Maybe if I scroll through my photo album in my phone, I'll see just how maybe narcissistic and self-centered I am. Maybe I won't, maybe I'll realize, some things about me that I wasn't really truly aware of, or that I didn't fully identify, and realize I can do better. Maybe I can look back at my past relationship and say, maybe some of the things that she said or he said were true. Even though in that moment of defensiveness, I had to defend myself from the attacks, or from what I felt were the perceived attacks on my character, maybe some of those things were true. Maybe it's time for me to do some real deep dive self-reflection and work on those things, so that the most important thing is that for when I heal myself, and the second most important thing, I don't know if this one might even be first, that I do not pass it on to my children and my children's children, and keep alive a generational curse that you want to die. I mean, we have a responsibility, right, for the souls that have been put in our care by the Creator. We have a responsibility to learn, evolve, and then apply this information and wisdom and knowledge to help bring about a better understanding between the generations, to begin to foster an environment of forgiveness for those that have maybe transgressed against us, right? Because we're not alone, you know, in this life cycle. We're not alone. This is a part of a bigger cycle. This is a part of something a lot bigger. And it's going to require us to dive deeply into it. I would say, as just some things that, and I want to kind of make sure that I look up some of these things that I saw that would maybe help, you know, because the truth is we all are carrying our parents' relationships in us. It's in our DNA. It's been wrapped up in our psyche. Whatever we've experienced, whether it was not enough hugs, not enough affirmations, whatever that was, not enough time spent. You know, we may have had everything we wanted materially, cars, trips, whatever food and snacks we loved, but we may have missed our parents' presence in our day-to-day lives, and experienced in that a level of drought, almost like those trees. A drought of emotional input, of love, of caring in the way that we needed, because I'm sure that our parents believed that they were loving on us. I'm sure none of them said, I'm doing this and I know my kid is devoid of the love that he really needs in order for him to flourish, or her to flourish and be her greater self. So I would say in that, some of the things that we probably need to do is cultivate a balanced lifestyle. We need to consciously strive to create a lifestyle that prioritizes quality time, emotional availability, and a clear separation between work and family. I know that may sound like a task, but consciously watch yourself and say to yourself, maybe even you have to write it down. At 6:30 or whatever it is, I'm going to cut off for at least an hour or two, and I'm just going to spend time talking with my children, not just sitting and watching TV with them, not just having this generic conversation with them, but actually having a complete conversation with them and finding out what is going on. Maybe another thing would be promote connectedness. Let's promote connectedness. Let's counteract the pull of our desire to be on that computer and feel like we have to do all of these things to, you know, create this wonderful life for our children. Let's maybe promote connectedness. Let's put that as a priority. What I found is that we as providers, we always want to find a way to provide. But maybe we should put more emphasis on the connectedness that needs to happen. On us really and truly connecting with our family. Spending that time to talk about things that really matter and have relevance. Right? Really matter and have true relevance. That is Super important. Maybe we need to rescript our life, rewrite the narrative, control the story so that we don't pass it. Maybe acknowledge that while we know nobody has a perfect ideal upbringing, nobody has the perfect ideal circumstances, that we need to create a secure base in the home, and that creates a sense of safety. So this way it can promote self-reliance and helpfulness to others. So these are just some things that I think we can use. Challenge your work-related role self. Change any existing healing fantasies or roles undertaken to get attention from preoccupied parents. That's something for our children. Maybe, we gotta, and maybe something for us so that we can identify how we were handled by our parents and understand that we can change those things. Set boundaries. If you know that you love to work and you love to get these things done, set boundaries for yourself. Okay, listen, I have to maybe even ask my children, hey, what do you want to do today? And or set a boundary and say, hey, I'm not going to receive any calls between this hour and that hour. Right? Whatever it takes to better serve the family unit, I'm going to say it's worth it. It's worth it. Practice self-compassion. Recognize that, going through this takes a toll on you. It becomes weariful. It becomes stressful. It becomes that. But it's essential to develop a loving relationship with your own mind, body, and soul. So being aware that you're not connecting with your children and you're not happy in that moment because of all of the things that may be devoid, recognize that. Become aware. Make an adjustment based on your understanding, because as much as it's affecting your child, it's affecting you as well, because you're not able to give them the love, compassion that they actually may need. So take that minute to do that. And that's just some things, that we can use as a practical way. Write some things down, be aware. Look at your children in the face, in their eye, and say, hey, is there anything you want to do today? Is there anything you want to talk about? Hey, let's go in the yard and play some catch. Hey, let's go for a walk. Let's go to the park and let's do a 30-minute walk in nature. I will guarantee you, because I've done it, you will find so many things to talk about when you don't bring your phone. Do not open up your phone in the park if you take them to the park. Leave it in the car. Leave it in the car and walk and watch what happens, especially if you have a child of anywhere between, let's say 5 and 13. Take them in the park and watch how the leaves, the trees, the rocks, the water, watch how everything then becomes a topic. Watch how everything begins to now catch their imagination, and how you can now feed into that. And now you have given your child true presence. I just hope that, this conversation means something to somebody other than myself, because it does mean a lot to me. I really appreciate you watching, being a part of this journey with me. I thank you for sharing, liking, and subscribing to the channel, which I know many of you have done, and I pray that more of you will, because the more I can get this message out, the more I feel that I'm living in my purpose. And that's my joy, is to live in my purpose. I want to be able to share and watch people grow, and again, heal myself as a testament to the power of opening up and sharing what you're going through. So again, family, thank you for watching another episode of Sins of the Father. I am your host, Ani I Am. I ask you to please like, share, subscribe to the channel. And most of all, I want you to comment. Give me feedback so that I know what impact I'm having, what things I can improve on, and how I could help. Because that is my purpose. Again, love, light, healing, power, strength, knowledge, and wisdom. Love, family. Peace.